So Bethesda recently held a developer Q&A with Will Shen, who is the lead class designer on Starfield, and Emil Pagliarulo, who is the lead designer on Starfield. And we got a ton of new information. And instead of going over all their answers word for word, I want to give you basically a TLDR of their answers, and I want to go over the more interesting answers, but I will have a link in the description to a full transcript someone wrote up on Reddit. So if you want to, you can go read all of their answers, because some of their answers are pretty interesting, especially some of the stuff where they talked about their inspirations when making Starfield, but I mainly want to go over the new information, specifically when talking about the content within Starfield. So question number 1 was, can we buy houses or properties in main cities? And both Will and Emil gave the same answer of yes, you can buy houses or property in all of the major cities in the game, and there are some properties or houses you will earn from doing some specific quests or some other activities. Emil was teasing quite a lot through a lot of these answers, including in this one where he teased being able to get some houses from some other means. And question number 2 was, if we get the kid stuff trait, will our parents be generated based on our character's look, or are there standard parents put in place? And what benefits might there be to this? Now, the kid stuff trait is a trait you can choose on character selection, where you will have parents in the actual world of Starfield that you can go visit, but you'll have to give up a small percentage of all credits you earn that will go to them. And both their answers were yes, their techs built a system where your parents' looks will be directly related to what looks you choose for your character. And Emma also teased that the voice actors they got to play your parents were really good in these roles. And we're going to skip question 3 because this was just asking for tips for people who hadn't played previous BGS games. But number 4 is, how will smuggling cargo systems work, and can we hide it somewhere on our ship and sell it for currency later? And they did confirm, as we got to see in the showcase, that you will be able to transport contraband throughout the different systems and transport them to different major settlements. And we did also get the confirmation that there will be special ship modules that you can purchase to help shield your contraband from the authority ships that try to scan you. Because say if you're trying to go to New Atlantis, there will be ships in orbit that will scan your ship before you're allowed to land on the planet to see if you have any contraband on board. So there will be modules that you can build on your ship to shield that contraband so you can get through the detectors. And Emil did also mention that the economy is fixed, but the prices of bought and sold goods can be changed based on the skills that you personally choose. So basically there won't be any changes in the items you sell, from say transporting it further distances or getting a certain item to maybe an area with more security, which is a little bit of a letdown, but that does make complete sense. Having a much more robust economy like that is a very intricate system, and adding that on top of a very complex game already is something that was never a guarantee to be in Starfield. And then question 5, will there be a jail system if we commit crimes? And the answer is yes. You can elect to go to jail to pay a fine, or you can attempt to resist arrest and try to escape from them. And they didn't specifically say if you would be able to escape from prison when you're already in prison. I'm assuming that's the case because they did also compare this system to that of the jail systems of their previous titles. And question number 6 was, will time pass when you're not actively logged into the game? So say trade routes between your outposts or mining operations. And the answer was no, nothing happens in the game if you're not currently logged into the game, which makes complete sense. I would have been very surprised if there was things going on in your playthrough of Starfield when you weren't actually on the game. And then question number 7 was, can you be a double agent in the game? And their answer to this was actually yes, you will be able to be a double agent. And one of the big storylines between the Crimson Fleet and the United Colonies is you infiltrating the Crimson Fleet on behalf of one of the military branches for the United Colonies, but then you will obviously be able to make the decisions on which way you want to go. Do you want to go super deep but stay as an agent for the United Colonies, or do you want to double cross the United Colonies and work with the Crimson Fleet? And I think that that storyline will be incredibly interesting just because of how many options you're actually going to have, and your choices within that questline will be very impactful because it'll legitimately choose which one of these major factions you end up joining. And question number 8 was, will there be a pacifist mode, or will you be able to fully go through the game without killing anyone? And their answers were they couldn't guarantee that you would be able to do this, that you would be able to go complete every mission in the game while being completely a pacifist, but they did say that you will be able to complete a lot of the game while being a pacifist, and there will be systems and skills and traits that will help you if you want to attempt a fully pacifist mode. And by them saying that there is a lot of systems to help you do this means that there's just going to be people that go do pacifist runs and figure out how to do completely pacifist runs. Now, question number 9 was about the religions in the game. And if you haven't heard this or seen this information, there's basically going to be 3 religions in the game: the Sanctum Universum, the Enlightened, and the Great Serpent. These are going to be the 3 main religions that are present within the game. Now, their answers were that the religions we have in real life, in the real world, will still be present within the game, but they don't really have any focus on them for things you actually interact with, but you'll be having a lot of interaction with these 3 new religions. And the Sanctum Universum being a religion that believes in God, and they believe that God is somewhere out in space, and that their belief is that God is out there and he gave humanity the ability to traverse space to go and find him. Then the Enlightened are organized atheists, and their main principle is to teach humans to take care of each other, and they're primarily focused on community outreach programs. But the most interesting one is the Great Serpent, one of the specific houses of this called House Varun. And Emil actually gave a very interesting explanation of this religion. And he says that in-game, you're not really sure what the complete truth is, but the gossip among the guards is that a colony ship sets off to a new world, making grav jumps along the way. After one of these grav jumps, one of the passengers claims he spent that time in the grav jump communing with a celestial entity known as the Great Serpent. What was a few seconds for everybody else on board was much longer for him, and he brought back a mandate, which is basically get on board with the Great Serpent religion or be devoured when the Great Serpent encircles the universe and assumingly kills everybody that isn't in this religion. And he also specifically mentions you'll be facing off against the House Varun Zealots as an enemy group, so it's seeming that House Varun is only an enemy faction, but the Great Serpent religion as a whole could potentially be something that isn't just all enemies. And Emil seems to really like this religion because he says he actually got a tattoo of their logo on his wrist in real life, so this seems to be a very interesting part of the game. And question number 10 is, how many companions total will we be able to recruit? And both of them gave the answer that there are over 20 named characters who can join your crew, a lot of this being focused on Constellation. But they did also mention that this does not count the random just crew members you can get to help crew your ships or your outposts. These are going to be what are actually considered companions that are named characters who have their own quest lines, backstories, and lore, but you'll still be able to recruit just crew members for your ships or for your outposts that aren't in that 20 companion list. And then question 11 is, when we assign crews to our outposts, do we have to pay them salaries? And you do actually have to pay them, but only once. You pay them up front right at the start when you want to assign them to something, and then that's it. They said that they did actually experiment with you having to pay everybody regular salaries, but they said they wanted to minimize things players have to keep track of, and that was seemingly going more into Space Simulator, so they wanted to keep it a bit more simple. And then question 12 was, will our companions be able to level up their perks, and will their perks stack with ours? And the answer was their perks won't level up, but all the different companions and crew members will have their own perks and perk ranks depending on what companion it actually is. But they did also say that these skills can stack with yours when it's something relevant to where that would make sense. And I think one of the biggest areas this would be on your ship. So if you put a bunch of your companions on your ship, and say one of your companions has an increase to the missile systems on your ship, and you also have an increase to missile systems on your ship, those would actually stack. So if something is actually able to be stacked, it seems like it will. Now, question Questions 13 through 15 were more asking these developers on some of their favorite parts of the game, their influences on what they were designing within the game, and some details they added into Starfield to add to the immersion. I'm not going to go over these because these aren't specifically going over any content or new information within the game, but if you're interested, I'd recommend reading these. They give some pretty interesting answers, especially when talking about their influences when making the game. I think this can definitely give some hints at where some of the story within the game is going. But number 16, they asked the history of the mech. Now we already kind of got this history where these mechs were used in the colony wars, and they did also mention that during the colony wars, the United Colonies did have mechs, but they also relied on controlled alien beasts from their Xeno Warfare division. So both sides not only had mechs, but the United Colonies also had mind-controlled alien beasts that they were also using in the fights, but both of those things were banned after that war when they signed a treaty, so no more mind-controlling alien beasts and no more using mechs. And they did also mention that they are not usable, but we will be able to see these in different runes throughout the game. And I did mention this in a video I went over where I theorized maybe down the road we would get drivable mechs, but I also said I'd be very surprised if we get to drive mechs in the game on launch, which is confirmed here. You won't be driving mechs around, but I would not rule out having to fight some of these mechs. Maybe there's like a boss fight where some pirate faction repairs one of these mechs and you have to fight one of these mechs. I wouldn't rule that out, but we're definitely not going to be driving or piloting these. But that's all the information I want to go over for the developer Q&A. Like I mentioned, I would definitely recommend reading through this if you're at all interested. I'll have a link in the description to that Reddit post that wrote all this information up. It's much easier to read in this Reddit post than it was in the official Discord, which is where the Q&A was held, but we did get a decent bit of pretty interesting information. But that's all I want to go over, so thanks for watching.